This is not a how-to guide to spiral downward. It's not a list of instructions on how to break your own heart or how to slowly unravel your potential. This is a wake-up call, a gentle but honest mirror being held in front of you. Not to shame you, not to judge you, but to help you see what's really happening beneath the surface of your day-to-day life. Because sometimes we're not falling apart in dramatic, visible ways. Sometimes we're eroding slowly, quietly, invisibly. And that kind of self-destruction, it's the most dangerous kind of all. It doesn't show up like a breakdown. It doesn't scream for attention. It's not crying in the shower or smashing your phone against the wall. No, this kind of self-destruction is much more polite. It's the way you silence your instincts to keep the peace. It's the way you say yes when you mean no because you're afraid of disappointing someone. It's the way you scroll through your phone for hours, numbing your emotions instead of facing them. And on the outside, everything looks fine. You're working, you're showing up, you're smiling, people say you're doing great, but inside, you feel like a ghost in your own life. This is the kind of destruction no one warns you about. It's disguised as being responsible. It hides beneath phrases like, I'm just tired, or I don't have time right now, or this is just how life is. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start to disappear. Not all at once, but little by little, you stop dreaming. You stop laughing the way you used to. You stop fighting for the life you once believed in. And one day you wake up and you don't recognize yourself anymore. Not because you've changed, but because you've been slowly erasing yourself in small, daily choices. That's what this is about. This conversation is not about pointing fingers or blaming you. It's about naming what's happening. Because when you can name it, you can change it. When you can see how you're silently sabotaging your own peace, your own growth, your own joy, you can begin to choose differently. You can start rewriting the story. You can come home to yourself again. Self-destruction doesn't always look like you think. When people think of self-destruction, they often imagine someone in crisis addiction, deep depression, reckless decisions, or hitting rock bottom. But the truth is, self-destruction rarely looks like that at first. Often, it's small. It's subtle. It comes dressed as habits we've normalized, thoughts we've never questioned, or ways of living we picked up without realizing. The most dangerous self-destruction is the one that feels familiar and acceptable. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It sounds like overthinking, like people-pleasing, like envy. It sounds like staying in the wrong place for too long because you think you don't deserve better. And the scariest part? Society won't warn you. Because most people are doing the same thing, destroying themselves slowly in silence. 2. Common forms of self-destruction no one talks about. 1. Comparing yourself unconsciously. Social media is the breeding ground for this one. You scroll, you swipe, and suddenly you're knee-deep in other people's lives, wondering why yours doesn't look like theirs. But here's the truth. You're comparing your behind-the-scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You don't see their breakdowns, their fears, their failures. You see the curated version, the version they want the world to believe. The more you compare, the more disconnected you feel from your own journey. Your confidence fades. Your focus shifts. You start playing a game you were never meant to win. And before you know it, you're living for validation, not fulfillment. Solution: notice the scroll, pause the envy. Every time you catch yourself comparing, bring your attention back to yourself. You are on your own path, and it is not supposed to look like anyone else's. 2. Being polite to strangers but harsh to those you love. You say thank you to the barista. You smile politely at your boss. But at home, you snap at your partner, your parents, your closest friends. Why? Because you feel safe with them. Because you think they'll understand. But safety isn't an excuse for cruelty. Over time, this habit corrodes relationships. You start to push away the very people who love you the most. You become the storm they need shelter from, not the peace they return to. It's a quiet form of self-sabotage, burning your bridges in the name of familiarity. Solution: practice emotional regulation. Just because someone is close to you doesn't mean they deserve your worst. Kindness is not a performance, it should start at home. Treat those you love with as much respect as you do a stranger. Actually, treat them better. 3. Looking down on those you think are below you. When you judge people based on their income, education, appearance, or social status, you think you're elevating yourself. But all you're doing is revealing your own fear. Arrogance is the mask of insecurity. Superiority is often the shadow of shame. When you constantly measure others to feel better, you are building self-worth on a weak foundation, one that crumbles the moment you meet someone who outshines you. Solution: stay humble. Everyone you meet knows something you don't. Everyone is fighting a battle you can't see. Let their stories soften you, not harden you. You don't have to prove your worth by putting others down. 4. Being jealous of those who are better than you. Instead of being inspired, you feel irritated. Someone else's success feels like a personal threat. You start picking them apart. They're not that great. They probably got lucky. It must be easy for them. But jealousy isn't about them. It's a mirror. It shows you what you deeply want but feel disconnected from. The more you hate them, the further you drift from your own growth. Jealousy is self-destruction disguised as attention. Solution: rewire your response. Instead of resenting, ask, what can I learn from them? Let their light spark your own. If they can do it, so can you in your own way, at your own pace. 5. Acting confident while secretly feeling worthless. It sounds like a paradox. How can someone be arrogant and insecure at the same time? But it happens all the time. The loudest people in the room are often the most afraid. They mask their fear with ego. They shut down feedback. They dismiss others. Deep down, they're terrified of being seen as less than. So they overcompensate. But living this way is exhausting. You're always performing, always pretending, always defending a version of yourself that's not real. Solution: embrace your vulnerability. Confidence isn't about pretending to have it all together. It's about being okay with not knowing everything. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. The moment you admit your weakness, you start to build true strength. 6. Staying around people who tear you down. Not all abuse is loud. Sometimes it's the constant sarcasm, the eye rolls, the passive-aggressive comments, the people who joke at your expense. Over time, these microcuts bleed your self-esteem dry. And the worst part, you start to believe them. You shrink. You second-guess yourself. You become small in your own story. And that is the quietest kind of self-destruction, staying in spaces that convince you you're not enough. Solution: audit your circle. Ask, do I feel safe, seen, and supported around these people? If the answer is no, it's okay to walk away. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's survival. 3. Why no one warns you about these things? Because most people are doing the same. They're stuck in the same loops. They don't have the words for it, so they can't name it for you either. Society praises productivity, not healing. You get applauded for staying busy, not for slowing down and asking, am I okay? You get celebrated for achieving, not for recovering. And in a world where image matters more than truth, pretending becomes the norm. Also, some people benefit from your disconnection. If you doubt yourself, you'll buy more. If you hate yourself, you'll obey more. If you feel powerless, you'll never question the system. That's why they don't want you to wake up. 4. So what can you do instead? 1. Awareness is the first step. Every quiet self-sabotage begins in the shadows of your mind. That moment you compare your life to someone else's Instagram highlight reel. That split second you say yes to something you don't want, just to avoid being disliked. That internal dialogue that whispers, you're still not enough. Awareness is the flashlight that reveals these shadows. It's not judgment. It's an observation. It's catching yourself in the act of people-pleasing and pausing long enough to ask, why did I just do that? It's noticeable when a wave of jealousy hits, and instead of pushing it down or feeling ashamed, you get curious. Is this emotion trying to tell me something deeper? Is this envy actually pointing me towards something I desire but haven't let myself claim? And here's the truth. Not every emotion is rooted in reality. Some are inherited patterns from our childhood, fears passed down from generations, beliefs absorbed from a society that profits off our insecurities. When you pause and ask, is this real or is this a fear I've been taught? You begin to separate your truth from your conditioning. The moment you become aware is the moment you take your power back, because awareness gives you choice. And with choice, you can begin to stop reacting from old wounds and start responding from a place of wisdom. 2. Appreciate people who tell you the truth. The truth rarely feels gentle at first. It stings. It exposes. It threatens the ego. But if someone cares enough to lovingly confront you with truth, that is not an attack. It's a gift. We live in a culture that confuses criticism with cruelty and affirmation with love. But sometimes the person who gently points out your blind spot loves you far more than the one who flatters you while you drown. The friend who says, "You haven't seemed like yourself lately," or "I feel like you're playing small," might be offering you a mirror when the world is offering you filters. Yes, the truth can hurt, but it also heals. Because it breaks illusions, it cracks open the shell of denial. It creates space for clarity, and eventually for freedom. So instead of building walls, try listening. Even if your defenses rise, even if your pride flinches, take a breath and consider, what if there's something valuable here? Something I need to see? It doesn't mean everyone's opinion is gospel. But if a pattern keeps showing up in feedback from people you trust, if several people, at different times, reflect something similar back to you, it may be the universe whispering through them. True growth requires humility, and humility isn't weakness. It's the courage to say, maybe I still have more to learn about myself. And that's okay. Default text. 3. Stop performing. Start understanding. Most of us are performing, even if we don't realize it. Performing confidence, performing success, performing happiness. And underneath it all, we're exhausted not because we're doing too much, but because we're doing too much of what isn't us. There's a silent pressure in modern life to be everything at once: competent, beautiful, funny, wise, productive, unbothered. We want to be impressive, but impressing the world at the cost of losing yourself is the most tragic trade. You don't have to prove anything. You were never born to compete in a race that doesn't fit your soul. Life is not about being perfect. It's about being real. And realness is messy. Realness includes doubt, awkwardness, days when you're not okay, and moments when you don't have the answer. But that's where authenticity begins, in the willingness to be seen as you are, not as you should be. Let go of the script. Let go of the role you think you need to play. You're not here to be a brand. You are here to be a human being with flaws, depth, softness, rage, and soul. Understanding yourself requires silence. It requires space. It requires compassion. You can't understand a person you're always pressuring to perform. So step back. Be still. Listen to the voice inside you that's been drowned out by noise. You might be surprised by what it's been trying to tell you all along. 4. Make soul care a daily practice. Self-care has become a buzzword, often limited to face masks, scented candles, and 10-step routines. But soul care? That's deeper. It's not about what looks good on camera, it's about what feels good to your spirit. Soul care is writing until your truth spills out onto the page. It's sitting in stillness and breathing into your body, even when the world is screaming for your attention. It's unfollowing people who make you feel small. It's choosing 1 or 2 friends who see you clearly instead of chasing dozens who only like the filtered version of you. Soul care is the radical act of coming home to yourself every single day. It's asking, what do I need to feel like me again? And then giving yourself that, even in small doses. It's about choosing environments that nurture you just like you would choose skincare for your face. Choose people and places that nourish your spirit. You don't have to wait until burnout to care for your soul. You don't have to hit rock bottom to change. Healing doesn't always require dramatic transformation. Sometimes it's the gentle, daily habits that shift everything. A walk, a journal entry, a kind word to yourself, a boundary set without apology. You become what you consume mentally, emotionally, energetically. So be mindful of the media you watch. the conversations you engage in, and the energy you allow around you. You don't owe access to everyone. You owe honesty to yourself. The final words, you don't have to fall apart to be self-destructing. Self-destruction doesn't always look like chaos. It's not always the messy breakdown, the dramatic failure, the visible cry for help. More often than not, it's invisible, it's quiet. It slips in through the cracks of daily life and makes itself at home. It shows up in the little things, saying, "I'm fine," when you're not. Laughing in conversations where your heart feels absent. Getting out of bed every morning, not because you're inspired, but because you're on autopilot, going through the motions. Living without really living. Sometimes self-destruction is just distance between you and the person you used to be, the one who used to dream bigger, love louder, feel deeper. Somewhere along the line, you start forgetting. You forget what makes you come alive. You forget what your own voice sounds like. You forget that you're allowed to want more than just survival. And that's the danger. The erosion of self doesn't always come with alarms. It comes with a slow, numbing forgetfulness. Until one day, you look in the mirror and whisper, "I don't know who I am anymore." Not because something big happened, but because nothing happened. You were just too busy, too distracted, too tired, too responsible. So you slowly stopped choosing yourself. But here's the most important truth. You can turn it around. You can pause even now, right now. You can decide that you are worth remembering, that you are worth choosing, that your life deserves to be more than just coping. You don't need a dramatic moment of reinvention. You don't need to run away or burn it all down. You just need one clear breath, one honest moment with yourself, one quiet decision to return, to feel again, to live again. Start by noticing the places where you feel empty. Not to judge yourself, but to listen. Where are you saying yes when your soul is screaming no? Where have you stayed silent when your truth was begging to be heard? Where have you built a life that looks good, but feels hollow? Default text them, make one small change. It doesn't need to be huge, just real. Write again. Sing again. Say no to something that drains you. Call someone who reminds you of who you are. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. Do one thing today that brings you back to you. Because the longer you live disconnected from your essence, the more you start to normalize that disconnection. But your soul doesn't forget. Even if you've been quiet for years, it remembers, and it's waiting for you to come home. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.